Welcome back to Grumpy Vet Garage. Today we're working on the 2019 Jeep Renegade again. This time we're doing front brakes. First thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and get the front tires off. Now I'm going to be doing them both at the same time, both front tires, but you could do this one tire at a time. So the Jeep is up, got both front tires off. I have two jack stands on the car. I left the jack underneath there for safety. You always want to keep as much stuff down there when you're working underneath the car. And then both tires are there too. Went ahead and popped the hood. Before doing anything with the brakes, you're going to need to go ahead and crack the master cylinder cap. So it's cracked, just leave it cracked so that air can flow past it. The reason being, we're going to compress the brakes back and we need that air and pressure to be able to come back out the system. So we need this at least vented so the air can get out. Okay, coming down to the wheel, the lug bolts are actually 17 millimeter. I thought they were going to be studs, but very European. They're actually lug bolts. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the caliper from the actual bracket. These bolts are going to be 14 millimeter. Okay, with them loosened up, then you can go ahead and thread out the bolts. And then the caliper should come free. Just like that. This piston has to be pushed back in for the new pads. So our pads are worn down more, and the new pads are of course going to be thicker, so we need more distance in here to put the pads. So I have a pad spreader. You don't have to use something like this. You could just use old brake pads and a C-clamp to press it in, but I do a lot of work on other cars, so I bought actual spreaders. But you'll stick it in here, put a little tension, and again, this is why you remove the cap or loosen the cap on the master cylinder so that this pressure could go back into the master cylinder. And that should do it. So as you can see, it went back and it's flush now. Now we need to go ahead and hang this up to get it out of the way so we can work on the rest of the brakes. Okay, so I went ahead and suspended the caliper out of the way, attached it to the suspension with a hook. You could probably do it with like a zip tie and zip tie it to one of the coils, but what you want to make sure is that this hose is not stretched all the way down or kinked super hard. Like it's got a little bit of a bend right now, but you just don't want to damage the hose on the caliper. But now with that out of the way, you can go ahead and remove the pads. They'll pop out this way. So here are both pads removed, inner pad and outer pad. So next, to get this rotor off, we got to remove this bracket. It's held on with two E20 E-Torx bolts on the backside. They're in there pretty tight. So I went ahead and already loosened them, but we need to go ahead and remove it fully. Okay, so here's the bracket removed. And here are the two E20 E-Torx bolts. Again, these aren't really going to be easy to remove. Every other fastener so far has been pretty easy to remove, but there's a good bit of Loctite on these bolts, and we'll make sure to put Loctite on them when we put them back in. Now we got to go ahead and pull the rotor, and the rotor is held on with a retaining screw. That retaining screw is 5 millimeter. It's not on there real tight from the factory, which is great. It's really just the retain. This would be the fun part if it didn't come out. But yeah, this screw right here. So now with that, the rotor literally just slips right off. And we set this aside. So before moving forward and doing anything as far as putting a new rotor on, you want to make sure this surface is clean. We don't live up in the north where this gets really rusty, but you still want to make sure that this surface is clean. So I'm going to wipe it down, and then I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on here just to make sure that nothing is going to stick and bond between these two pieces of metal when we put the new rotor on the hub. Okay, so this is just from the parts store, anti-seize. Had this bottle forever, but you're just wanting to put a little bit on this surface. So I'm just going to put a little bit, and then I'm going to spread it around just to make sure that there's nothing not coated. This will prevent rust from building up and also bonding the rotor to the hub. Now, you may think it was easy to come off this time, but in many cases, things can get stuck. So this is why you want to put a little bit of anti-seize. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of spread it around. Again, so not thick, just uniform coverage. So I just put a little bit and just spread it all the way around just to make sure that nothing's going to get stuck, corroded, and bond. So we have here our replacement rotor, just a standard off-the-shelf rotor, but it has oil coating on it. Also, it's covered in plastic to prevent it from corroding on the shelf while waiting for you to get it. So we're going to have to clean this rotor off. Okay, so the finish, they actually got a nice crosshatch pattern on the actual rotor, and that's going to help with the pad bedding in, but there is a slick grease or oil on it. I'm going to end up using brake clean to go ahead and clean off the surface and get it down to bare metal. My daughter, whose car this is her car, she goes, couldn't we just wash it with soap and water? And the answer is yes, you could. You're really just wanting to do whatever you need to do to get this coating off of the surface on both sides before you install it. And before I forget, if you don't remove this coating and install it, your brakes will work. They just won't work very well and not for very long because they'll glaze over. There's a process for bedding in the brake pads, and we'll go over that. But you need to have this surface clean on both sides or your brakes are not going to work very well. So again, just using brake clean, and then I'm using like a shop rag to wipe it down. Okay, got it all wiped down, got the oiliness off of it. Make sure it's nice and clean, but after you even touch it with your fingers, go ahead and wipe it again. You just want to make sure that it's as clean as you can get it. Okay, so went ahead and put the rotor up on the hub, and then the actual retaining screw, I went ahead and put some more anti-seize on it, because again, you don't want this to get stuck in there for the next time that you may have to change rotors. Also, this doesn't need to be super tight in the actual hub. Remember, your tire is going to be sitting over this, so it's not going to be able to back out when your tire is installed. We're just trying to locate it in its position. So that's all you need. Okay, so these are the pads that we're going to go ahead and be putting on the Renegade. They're made by PowerStop. These are a ceramic pad. And the whole point why we wanted to get a pad like this, brake dust is the big reason. Any kind of pad that's a semi-metallic pad, anything that's got really any kind of metal type material in it will generate a lot of brake dust, making your wheels dirty. Granted, the wheels on my daughter's Renegade are black steel, so it really wouldn't show that much, but these are also good for quiet operation, but also still has good performance. So it's going to bite very similar to the OEM pad, but it's going to have a lot less dust and be quiet. This kit, and actually everything that I'm using to change these brakes, I'm going to have links in the video description, but this particular kit came with new shims for the actual caliper brackets, so we're going to change those. And then all the pads, and they're already wrapped up again for the same reason that we want to keep our rotors clean now so that we can actually get them to bed in. They seal up the rotors, not the rotors, but the pads, so that no kind of oils and stuff can get on these actual pads. So here is the new pad, and it already comes with a shim on the back. This is to kind of keep noise down during operation, and also has a wear indicator, just like the factory OEM one had. The OEM one had a shim. This one has a shim, indicator. But if you look at the size of the pad area, there's much more pad surface area with this one than the OE, but these are going to be superior to the OE pads pretty much in every way. Also, you see the way that I'm holding the pads, holding it from the edge. You're not going to want to put your fingers on this surface. Again, later we're going to bed these pads in, but you don't want oils from your hands getting on the pad surface. Okay, so you see the actual retainers here. They're just popped into the side of this bracket, and you can lift these off. Maybe a little persuasion with a flat blade, but these can cause a little bit of wear, and this kit comes with new ones, so you'd want to replace these. Okay, so here's the bracket without the shims on there. You just want to grab the new ones, and they literally just pop in place. They'll just press down in place. Just like that. So with our new shims in place, it's time to go ahead and put this bracket back onto the Renegade. Okay, so put this back. We're going to be using our E20 eTorx bolts, and we're going to put a little bit of Loctite. They had red Loctite. I'm not going to put that back down there. So I'll put some blue Loctite, but you don't want these to back out. Okay, so the two E20 E-Torques that hold on the bracket, it's torqued to 122 foot-pounds, which is pretty substantial, especially when you think about the fact that the actual lug bolts are only torqued to 90. So it's a pretty high torque. So I got out the big torque wrench, but essentially you need to smoke it down. So the bracket's torqued on, again, 122 foot-pounds or just a lot. Now we need to go ahead and put the pads on. The one with the wear indicator is on the inside. So this is the inside pad. I've already put this one on, but to show you on the outside one, this is a silicone paste. This here will help lubricate, and because this pad has to slide inside this caliper bracket, we're going to want to put this paste on this edge and around this air. Keep it away from the actual surface. On both sides, of course, you're going to want to put it, but keep it away from this surface at all. So just a little bit will go a long way. You could use grease, and I've used regular grease. It tends to flow more than this does. This will stay in place with heat. But again, just some sort of lubricant so that this pad will slide in the brackets, the ones we changed. Then you take the pad and you'll drop it into the groove right here and work it over and then pop it in. And then you can squeeze them down because that's where they're going to stay. Now coming in with the caliper, now because we've already put back the piston, pushed it back, it will slide right over the new pads in place, just like that. Okay, now the retaining bolts for the caliper, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on these as well. And we'll go ahead and thread them in finger tight. And then coming in with a torque wrench, we're going to go ahead and torque these bolts down to 26 foot-pounds. Okay, now just go ahead and double check and look over everything. Make sure nothing looks out of place. So we got our caliper torque back down. Of course, we got in both pads, very important. Shims are going to be outside friction material towards the disc. Give it a good look over, but that is brakes on one side. Now you just need to go ahead and do the other side. Okay, so both sides are done. Went ahead and put on both rims. Again, 90 foot-pounds on those lug bolts. Then also need to go ahead and tighten back down your master cylinder cap. Also check the fluid to make sure you're not low. There's no reason in this process that you should have lost any fluid. But again, it's always good to check. But now we need to go ahead and put the car on the ground and then do the pad and rotor break-in process. Okay, so we're out on the road. We're going to do the bed-in process for the pads and rotors. So this process is pretty easy. It's going to be 6 to 10 stops from 30 to 35 miles an hour. This is going to be moderate stops. So you're not really trying to go very hard with the brakes, but also you're not trying to come to an absolute complete stop either. You want to keep it rolling. The heat that you're building in the system needs to not be focused in one spot. So at no point in any of these stops are we actually going to come to a complete stop. So I'm waiting for the road to kind of clear up for us to do the first part. But then the second part is going to be 2 to 3 hard stops coming from 40 to 45 miles an hour. Now these stops need to be hard enough that it's a hard stop, but not so hard that you're engaging the anti-lock brakes. So kind of modulate that. But yeah, and then after all that's done, we'll do a 15-minute cool down drive. And that drive, you don't want it to be stop and go traffic. So you don't want to get stuck downtown where there's a whole bunch of stoplights or a bunch of stop signs. You want to be able to cruise on the open like a country road, which we're going to try to do. Okay, so we're going to start doing 6 to 10, 35 to 30 mile an hour moderate stops. Still want to make sure to get in our moderate stops, even though traffic's being a little difficult. How dare they get in the way of us doing maintenance on our vehicle? Okay, I'm going to do one more moderate stop, and then we get to go to the fun hard stops. I would also say when you're doing your hard stops, make sure it's on a relatively straight section of road. You don't want to turn around and be in the middle of a curve while you're trying to do it, but let's go ahead and do our first hard stop. Are you ready? Okay, here we go.
Wait.
Okay, that was one. Little bit hard on that one. Okay, you ready? That was fun. I like that. This makes all of the changing brakes worthwhile. It's fun. Here we go. One more. Okay. Now what we want to do is drive around for 15 minutes and let the whole system cool down. We don't want to just have it go park back in the driveway and then start baking itself. So we're going to take ourselves a nice leisurely drive. Well, I'm back in the garage, but as you can see, changing front brakes on a Jeep Renegade is a relatively easy process and definitely something that a do-it-yourselfer could do in their garage or their driveway. Leave a comment if you have a question about changing brakes on a Jeep Renegade or anything we're doing in Grumpy Vet Garage. But if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to Grumpy Vet Garage, liking this video, sharing this video. To support the channel, we have a Grumpy Vet Garage merch store. Link to that store is in the video description. Additionally, we have affiliate marketing links in the video description. Using those links to make any purchase directly supports the channel. If you want to contact me, you can do that through the comment section of this video or through our Facebook or Instagram page. Link to those are in the video description. But as always, thanks for coming and seeing me in my garage. And until next time, have a good one.